Hello, I'm Tom Reese. I'm here in honor Anne Reese, who was my first wife, and we married soon after we got out of graduate school. And she was this strikingly tall, beautiful woman that totally knocked me off my feet. But I wasn't in a position to be knocked off my feet because she was girlfriend of my best friend all through high school, named George Dunn. And George Dunn was a brilliant young man, lawyer, who was fated to become the general counsel for Standard Oil in Ohio and create a new division of Standard Oil of Ohio, and did extremely well as expected. And as I say, he seemed like a brilliant lawyer, and he and I were at Harvard at the same time and continued our friendship. He was my best buddy all that time. I was growing up from a little kid until going through Harvard, and after a while, things began to change between George and things began to change between George and Anne, and I began to see more of Anne. And it turned out that she's a very bright woman, and I loved talking to her. She was about the best person I'd ever met to sit and just talk about things and talk about politics or life or science or anything. She knew everything. And she was studying to be a psychiatrist to help people. And we had a lot in common there and could talk about these things, the vagaries of the mind together as well. And so we had a lot. It turned out we began to develop a lot in common, and finally decided that maybe we ought to get married. And so we did at the end of the summer. And I began to see that there was a cloud on the horizon, though, and I didn't quite understand what it was, but it was clear to me that the world was coming to my door. I was working very hard and was meeting great success in my science, and immediately got promoted to tenure and given a lab, and they were giving me everything with open arms. And that nothing's more motivating than that for a young man. So I didn't do much of anything. Talking to Anne later about it, I realized that I'd basically worked all the time. Worked in the evenings, worked on the weekends, and wasn't really putting into my marriage what a young man should be putting into his marriage. I was only putting in what I needed to put in to be successful in my career, which I was. I was immediately promoted and elected to the National Academy of Science, which is a great honor. And very few people get that. And I was given all the money I needed and all the help I needed, and had I began to attract terrific people who were supported and working with me, and I all of a sudden found myself as pointed ahead of this big laboratory at NIH, which is a major financial and commitment on the part of NIH. And so I'd made it. I had tenure and a position and all the money I wanted to work with, and everything was going my way. It was just terrific, and I realized that there was something on the horizon. There was a cloud on the horizon. I didn't quite understand exactly what it was, but I could see that the sort of full-bodied participation in my marriage wasn't really going the way I wanted it, and coming home at night and feeling at home, and as a man, I needed both. I needed to be successful in my work, but I also needed love. And I don't mean the general sense of just being part of a family, of having a home, of having a place that was mine, a place I loved, and I succeeded in creating all those things. But in the end, after about 4 or 5 years, she let it be known, began to let it be known that this isn't what she really wanted. And eventually I agreed to leave and go off on my own. And we left her the house in Foxhole Village, and I went and found a place to live in Georgetown, which is what every young man wants, of course. And I succeeded to continue to succeed at NIH and become nationally known and famous, and then I realized it was over. This dream I'd all had all my life of having a home and a wife and a place, of being at the same time having a place of my own, and of having a loving wife, and that wasn't working out for us. And so I agreed to go off on my own, and we got divorced. Terrible word. And but at the same time, I realized that what I'd really wanted all along was a place of my own and a family of my own. And so I did my best at the time, even though by then Ann and I had children, had 2 wonderful girls. But they stayed and continued to live at Foxhole Village, and I became their place. And I went off on my own in Georgetown and did what I could, and had various young man type adventures of various sorts, and finally ended up with what I really wanted. Was I met Carolyn, who is my present wife of 40 years, and we had a wonderful time together. And she was a scientist, and she could understand my being crazy as a scientist. I was a crazy scientist, and she was a crazy scientist, and we got along beautifully. We never had, unfortunately, excuse me, unfortunately we never married, we never had children, but everything else was great. And we finally we fell in love with dogs. Those were our children at the time. We had to have stability in children, and we became dog lovers, extreme dog lovers, dog show people. Highly successful, nationally successful dog show person, one of the most successful in the country. And we did wonderful things with our dogs. But that's no substitute for family, because that created a huge dilemma, because one of my daughters was allergic to dogs. It's a tragedy. And I wish at this point I could devote my life, since I have a scientific acumen to do it. I wish I could devote my life to working out that problem. I think I know how to do it. I think I can see how it could be done, at least. And it would be wonderful if we could. Human beings evolved. The evidence is pretty good that they evolved to live with dogs and evolved a relationship with dogs. They're evolved personalities, and dogs evolved personalities fit together in many ways. And dogs are a fundamental part of our living family. I know a lot of people don't feel that. Some people feel that was ridiculous, but I don't. pleasure every day with my dogs, and I don't have a woman who sleeps with me anymore, but I do have this wonderful female dog, and she's the love of my life in many ways. My children are the love of my life too, and there's a dilemma there that I've always had to work my way through. But I'd come to realize that what I was putting into my science, when I when I finally succeeded, when I was putting into my science was not worth it. It's not what I wanted. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a life. I wanted to come home and look forward to coming home and having dinner and being with somebody I loved, and I succeeded in doing that with Carolyn. We did that for years, and she on the other hand, she could understand, being a scientist, could understand what I was going through, but I backed off a fair amount on my science. I think I was on the track to going to the end with it, but I realized that's not exactly what I needed. It wasn't what I really wanted. And I sort of backed off and made plenty of money with it and succeeded in living a good life, but not pushing it over that final edge that people do when they make it big. And that's the story of my life. And, I always loved Carolyn, and I loved having her as a mother of my children, and she was the one that I always tried to keep up with. And every summer I would go off to the Cape, where she liked to go. I started going to the Cape myself and got a place there, and we'd spend our summers on the Cape. And they became Woods Hole children, which is a certain type of child that, for those of you who know, spend their life on the beach. And that was us. And it was a happy time. And it was just sad that there was no way out, though, nowhere to go with it. And eventually we drifted apart, and I drifted apart. And one of my great sorrows is that she's gone. I came today to honor her and honor the wonderful job she'd done as a mother for Andrea and Devin, and how that made, to a large extent, fitted my life back together. And she was a wonderful mother, and we'll always remember her. And sorry, we took that particular branch of existence. The other branches we might have taken, but we didn't. And that's a regret on my part, but that's the way it is. And we have many things to be happy about and celebrate, and with Andrea and Devin, and that's what we'll have to do now from now on. So thank you very much for coming to honor Anne, and wonderful job she's led as a giving, unstinting mother for Andrea and Devin. Thank you very much. Bye.